Hello everybody and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Today I'm going to be talking to you about terroir. Now, the reason that I'm going to talk about terroir is because I think it's important as a whiskey drinker and as my audience here to know as much stuff as we possibly can to know about whiskey so that marketing teams can't take advantage of that. When you go to a whiskey tasting and somebody hands you a glass and says, "Here, go ahead and taste this. It has great terroir." If you don't know what that means, some of you are going to disassociate from that. You're going to think it's stuffy and whatever. But if you don't, or if you happen to appreciate fancy words and kind of sucks you in a little bit, that's marketing. Marketing people try to sound smarter than you or more well-informed. It's basic human psychology. So what I want to do is teach you what this means so that can't work on you and you can make a more informed decision. Anyway, terroir comes from a French word for terre. Basically means land. And what the whole point is that it's supposed to describe the way a crop grows, and specifically things about its phenotype, for example, which is a fancy word for its chemical makeup, its physical traits, and just generally things about it, what makes it whatever crop it is. And terroir has to do with the way that plant is treated, specifically its geography, or the way it's harvested, or even the way it's treated while it's growing. All of this kind of stuff can have an effect on terroir. Now, whiskey distillers have kind of expanded this, especially the craft whiskey distillers, to mean everything that goes into a whiskey: the water, the crops, even the way it's matured. All of this counts as terroir, and they'll use that. So let me explain. Terroir matters. First, I may not have kind of gotten that across at the beginning, but terroir does matter. And the perfect explanation for this is think about IPAs, right? So beer. You've got East Coast IPAs and you've got West Coast IPAs. And if you had both of them right next to each other and you took a sip of both, you can absolutely tell the difference, 100%. Even those of you without too keen of a sense, you can tell the difference. And that's a perfect example of how terroir matters. Where it grows matters. Now, this term was typically reserved for things like wine and tobacco and chocolate and even cannabis. And all of this stuff, especially wine, think about it. Any wine from any different region, that's basically just an extrapolation of the word terroir. It's just not as fancy, right? Region. So let me explain one more thing. This is Cedar Ridge, right? So Cedar Ridge is a whiskey I've covered somewhat recently, and I really actually liked this Cedar Ridge straight whiskey. And it is it's made in Iowa. And the reason that they did that is because corn is such a heavily used piece of it. And because of that, they're like, okay, we should grow this in Iowa because the corn comes from Iowa and their water is sourced from Iowa and all of the stuff is from Iowa. And because of that, it's an Iowa whiskey. And it's good. It's actually really good. And terroir made it that way. If you were to grow this 1,000 miles to the west, it would taste very different. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. So now that you know what this means, don't fall victim to marketing ploys. If they bring up terroir, ask them about it. Say, so when you talk about our terroir, are you talking about the corn, the barley, the rye, the water? What are you talking about? And I guarantee you, you're gonna kind of throw them for a loop because most of these guys don't think that we know. Anyway. Thank you for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and I have nothing in here but cheers.